The reliquary had been silent longer than my entire bloodline had been modest about its importance. It hung in the center of the docking ring like a verdict no one could appeal. For 312 years, every species in the Concord had tried to wake it. They sang to it in frequencies that cracked glass. They bombarded it with quantum keys. One delegation even composed a heartfelt apology on behalf of the universe. The ship did not respond. "It prefers dramatic entrances," Commander Aaron said beside me. Her voice carried the calm of someone who had trained for war and instead been assigned to babysit history. She looked almost human, tall, poised, eyes steady. But her long ears swept back in elegant arcs, adorned with silver rings that chimed faintly whenever she tilted her head. At the moment, they were angled in what I had been told meant skepticism. "I assure you," I said, adjusting the ceremonial sash that marked me as Earth's minor royal representative, "I have no dramatic entrances planned. I trip over carpets." "You are aware," she replied, "that if this fails, the Council will add your name to the list of disappointments." "That's fine. My family crest already includes a lion and a tasteful shrug." Around us, soldiers of the Concord stood in precise formation. Armor gleamed. Drones hovered. The Council watched from a raised platform behind an energy barrier that suggested they trusted me exactly as much as they trusted the ship. The reliquary loomed before us, matte black, absorbing light. No visible seams, no visible weapons, no visible anything, really. It was less a vessel and more an argument. "Place your hand on the hull," Aaron said. "Is there a manual?" There were. They disintegrated. Of course they did. I stepped forward. My shoes echoed across the docking ring. My reflection did not appear on the ship's surface. It was like staring into a future that had chosen not to RSVP. "Your bloodline records confirm you carry the archaic genetic markers," Aaron said quietly. "If the legends are true." "My family's most reliable record involves a dispute over jam," I muttered. Her long ears flicked. "Jam. Raspberry." It was a dark century. A faint ripple of restrained laughter passed through the nearest soldiers. Good. If I was about to fail publicly, I preferred an audience that was at least entertained. I raised my hand. For a moment I considered waving politely. Then I pressed my palm against the hull. Warmth answered. Not surface heat, not mechanical hum. Recognition. A pulse traveled from the point of contact through my arm into my chest. The docking ring lights flickered. A low vibration rolled outward, subtle at first, then gathering strength like a thought deciding to become a sentence. Behind me, someone gasped. Lines of pale light erupted across the ship's surface, racing outward in geometric patterns. Symbols unfolded, ancient, precise, impossibly complex. The air thickened with energy. Drones lost altitude and stabilized again as their systems recalibrated. I tried to remove my hand. I couldn't. "Commander," I said, attempting calm, "if this is an electrical issue, I would like to officially state that I did not consent to being vaporized." Erin stepped closer. Her composure fractured just enough for me to see it. "The energy readings are spiking. The vessel is responding." The hum deepened. It was no longer sound, it was intention. Then everything stopped. The vibration ceased. The lights froze mid-pulse. The soldiers around us halted in place as if sculpted from their own armor. A hovering drone hung suspended, its indicator lights locked between blinks. Erin stood inches from me, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. One of her long ears was caught mid-turn, rings glinting in arrested motion. "Commander," I asked. No answer. I turned my head. Only I was moving. The docking ring existed in absolute stillness. No echo, no breath, no mechanical whisper. A voice unfolded inside my mind. It did not introduce itself. It did not ask permission. It spoke with the weight of centuries. "Command lineage verified." I blinked. "I beg your pardon." "Genetic authority confirmed. Sovereign heir recognized." "I think you have the wrong human," I said aloud, mostly because silence felt unhealthy. I inaugurate libraries. I do not sovereign. Temporal field engaged. External entities suspended. I looked at Erin again. She was perfectly frozen, poised between action and disbelief. For a wild second I considered adjusting her stance for dramatic effect, but I suspected that would end poorly. You stop time, I told the voice. Temporal flow remains intact. Localized suspension implemented. Of course, that makes more sense. Fragments of light detached from the hull and formed shapes in the air before me. Ships unlike any in the conquered fleet. Bearing insignias I recognized from half-forgotten human myths. Fleets carved through hostile space. Worlds shielded by luminous constructs. A throne not of gold but of command interfaces. Your lineage initiated the covenant of stars. My lineage, I repeated faintly. We argue about jam. Lineage divergence occurred. Authority dormant pending reactivation. Pending reactivation, I echoed. You waited 3 centuries. Awaiting correct genetic sequence. I stared at my hand against the hull. So all this time, all attempts insufficient. I laughed. It came out slightly hysterical. You're telling me the most advanced vessel in the galaxy was waiting for a bureaucratically downgraded Earth prince. Sovereign status independent of bureaucratic recognition. Well, that's comforting. A pause followed, heavy with expectation. Confirm command assumption. The words felt larger than the docking ring, larger than the frozen soldiers, larger than my very average sense of destiny. Behind me stood an empire that believed this ship was a relic. Before me stood a machine that believed I was its ruler. I cleared my throat. If I say yes, I asked carefully, does everyone unfreeze? Affirmative, and if I say no? Command authority remains dormant. Suspension persists until external override achieved. Probability of override, negligible. So it's yes or an awkward eternity. Accurate, I glanced once more at Erin, at the long ears that marked her species, at the discipline caught mid-motion, at the entire empire balanced in stillness. Well, I muttered, this is going to look impressive in the family newsletter. I drew a breath. Yes, I said, command accepted. Time did not snap back, it unfolded. The first thing I heard was Commander Erin finishing her breath. Responding, she said, as if the last several impossible seconds had merely been a dramatic pause. Around us, soldiers shifted, drones resumed their hum, the council members blinked in dignified confusion. No one screamed. I admired that about the conquered, very professional during reality malfunctions. The hum of the reliquary deepened, no longer tentative. It resonated through the docking ring and into my bones. Lines of light reorganized across the hull, converging toward the point where my hand still rested. I removed it carefully. The lights did not fade. Erin stared at the ship, then at me. Her long ears angled forward, every silver ring catching the renewed glow. What did you do? I said yes. You said yes to what? I'm not entirely certain. It felt impolite to say no. A tremor ran through the station, not violent. Intentional. Massive structures that had been inert for centuries shifted into alignment. Panels slid open across the reliquary's surface, revealing apertures that hummed with restrained energy. The High Admiral's voice boomed from the council platform. Power readings are exceeding historical maximums. Commander Erin, report. She did not take her eyes off me. The human touched the hull. I noticed, the Admiral replied dryly. Why is the ship powering its weapons? As if in answer, luminous constructs unfolded along the vessel's flanks. Not cannons in any conventional sense, more like equations made visible, bending space into sharp intention. I raised a hand. Before anyone panics, I would like to clarify that I did not request weapon activation. I barely understand my own calendar. The voice returned inside my mind, clearer now. Defensive systems online. Sovereign presence detected, potential threats assessed. Threats, I whispered, multiple, that's comforting. Erin stepped closer to me, lowering her voice. What is happening? It believes I'm in danger. Her ears twitched. You are surrounded by an Imperial guard. Yes, it seems unimpressed. The docking ring lights shifted to a crimson hue as external sensors relayed new data. Beyond the station, the conquered fleet adjusted formation. I saw the feeds flicker across suspended displays, battleships aligning targeting arrays toward the reliquary. That feels unnecessary, I muttered. The Admiral's voice sharpened. Unknown vessel, power down immediately. You are within sovereign space. The reliquary did not reply aloud. It replied through me. Authority precedence established. Sovereign air restored. Imperial claim secondary. Every comm channel on the station went silent. Aaron's gaze snapped to mine. It used your title. I'm as surprised as everyone else. You understand what that implies? That I need better tailoring. It implies, she said carefully, that the vessel recognizes you as its supreme commander. Yes, that part was clear. And you accepted. I was under time-related pressure. Her long ears dipped slightly, then lifted again. Not quite anger, not quite awe. Do you command it now? The question hung between us like a loaded device. I think it commands me, I admitted. The voice disagreed gently. Mutual command structure. Sovereign directive required. A display ignited before us, projecting streams of ancient data. Star maps bloomed, sectors marked with dormant signatures. Fleets hidden in voids. Stations cloaked in gravitational folds. Dormant assets awaiting activation. I swallowed. How many assets? Quantification in progress. Estimate sufficient. Sufficient for what? I asked. Reclamation. That is a very dramatic word. Aaron studied the projections, her composure thinning at the edges. These coordinates, they predate the conquered. Apparently I do too, I said. Alarms shifted tone. External scans detected energy spikes at the system's edge. A cluster of ships dropped from fold space without authorization. The Admiral swore in 3 languages. Aaron's jaw tightened. A rival faction. They must believe the reliquary can be seized. Can it? I asked. Negative. Excellent. Let's avoid a galactic incident before lunch. Incoming vessels powered weapons. The conquered fleet hesitated, uncertain whether to defend the station from the newcomers or from the ancient ship now humming with unsettling loyalty to me. The voice spoke again. Permission to engage. I blinked. Engage how? Neutralization protocols available. Probability of total enemy eradication, 99.8%. That seems excessive. Alternative strategies requested. I looked at Aaron. If I let it vaporize them, how much paperwork would that create? An unmanageable amount, she replied instantly. Right, no vaporizing. I faced the looming vessel. Defensive posture only. Disable, do not destroy. Directive accepted. The reliquary moved. It did not accelerate. It shifted. Space folded inward around its hull, compressing distance into obedience. In a heartbeat, it stood between the station and the hostile ships, vast and silent. Energy lanced outward, not beams but fields. The incoming fleet's weapons flickered and died. Engines stuttered. One by one, the ships froze in place, caught in shimmering lattices of constrained physics. I exhaled slowly. That felt controlled. Minimal force applied. Good, let's keep it that way. Across the docking ring, soldiers stared at the projection feeds. The hostile ships hung immobilized, intact but powerless. The Admiral's voice returned, cautious now. Human, what have you done? I asked for restraint, I said. You're welcome. Aaron looked at me with something new in her expression. Not merely calculation, recognition. The vessel obeyed you, she said softly. It appears so. And it spared them. Yes, I prefer enemies who can later apologize. Her long ears angled back, then forward again, a subtle gesture I was beginning to read as reluctant approval. Inside my mind, the reliquary's presence settled, vast and attentive, awaiting further sovereign instruction. I stared at the immobilized fleet, at the stunned council, at the Empire recalibrating its understanding of power. I need a moment, I told the ancient ship. Temporal dilation available. No, I said quickly. No more stopping time, we're trying to build trust. Acknowledged. Erin folded her hands behind her back. What is your next command, Sovereign Heir? The title no longer sounded ceremonial. I glanced at the frozen enemy ships, then at the conquered fleet holding its breath. Open a channel, I said. Let S have a conversation. The reliquary complied. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy listened to a human whose greatest prior qualification had been ribbon cutting, now speaking with the quiet backing of a ship that could bend stars into compliance, and had chosen, for reasons I was only beginning to understand, to bend them with me. Channel open, the reliquary said inside my mind. Across every frequency the conquered possessed, and several it had not yet discovered, the hostile fleet's command vessel flickered onto the central projection grid. A scaled face filled the transmission field, armored ridges framing cold, furious eyes. Fleet Marshal Terk of the Outer Dominion, if my briefing files were correct. He looked like someone who had expected triumph and received physics instead. What have you done to my ships? He demanded. Temporarily inconvenienced them, I replied. Think of it as mandatory reflection time. You dare? Yes, I said gently. Apparently I do. A murmur rippled through the conquered command deck behind me. Erin stood at my right, silent, observant. Her long ears were angled slightly forward, listening not only to the marshal but to the room itself. Terk's image flickered as he attempted to reroute power. The reliquary tightened its containment fields in response, not aggressively, just enough to make a point. Release my fleet, he said. That vessel belongs to no one. A pause inside my skull. Correction, the reliquary murmured. Vessel belongs to Sovereign Heir. I cleared my throat. The vessel disagrees. Terk leaned closer to his transmission node. You are human. I've checked. Humans do not command relics of the First Dynasty. I'm starting to suspect our history textbooks were aggressively edited. A few conquered officers coughed, either in amusement or existential dread. Erin stepped slightly forward. Marshal Terk, your incursion violates interstellar accords. You hide behind law, he snapped. We seek balance, the conquered hoards power. Balance is a noble goal, I said. Launching missiles at a research station is less noble. He hesitated. Not long, just enough to reveal calculation. The reliquary cannot be allowed to remain dormant under conquered control. That's convenient, I replied. It's no longer dormant. Silence pulsed across the channel. You claim command, Terk asked. I didn't claim, I was claimed. Very dramatic. There were lights. The reliquary projected a controlled surge of data across the open frequencies. Ancient command codes, genetic authentication markers, fleet designations long believed myth. Terk's expression shifted from fury to something sharper. You carry the blood, he said quietly. I've been informed. The First Dynasty fell. It appears to have taken a nap. Behind me, the conquered High Admiral muttered something about this being strategically inconvenient. Terk straightened. If the dynasty has returned, then so too will the wars it began. The reliquary stirred at that. Historical revision detected, it said. Let's not argue about ancient propaganda, I said quickly. No one wins that debate. Erin's voice lowered. He is probing. He wants to see if you will posture. I don't posture, I whispered back. I flail confidently. Terk's eyes narrowed. Release my fleet, and we will withdraw. Refuse, and this system becomes the first battlefield of your so-called restoration. The reliquary calculated probabilities at a speed that made my thoughts feel antique. Projected escalation pathways displayed. Dozens of outcomes branched before me in translucent overlays. Some ended in shattered fleets. Some in fractured alliances. A few in something resembling stability. Do you always narrate apocalypse options like this? I asked silently. Transparency increases optimal decision probability. Good to know. I faced the projection. Marshal Terk, what do you believe the First Dynasty was? Conquerors, he said without hesitation. They bent systems to their will. The reliquary pulsed once, almost indignantly. Archival contradiction available. Hold that thought, I murmured to the ship. I met Terk's gaze. If I release your fleet, you withdraw beyond conquered space. You open diplomatic channels. You stop firing at things you don't understand. You expect trust. No, I said honestly. I expect curiosity. You attacked because you feared imbalance. I just demonstrated that I could erase your fleet and chose not to. The containment fields tightened briefly, a subtle reminder. I prefer neighbors to ashes, I continued. It's more sustainable. A long pause. Behind Terk, his officers whispered urgently. Strategic displays flared and dimmed as they confirmed what we already knew. They were completely immobilized. Aaron leaned closer to me. If he agrees, you shift the political axis of the region. No pressure, I murmured. Terk exhaled slowly. Release us, sovereign heir. We will withdraw for now. For now is acceptable, I said. I enjoy sequels. The reliquary awaited confirmation. Disengage containment fields, I ordered. Maintain sensor lock. No weapons activation. Directive acknowledged. The shimmering lattices dissolved. One by one, the Dominion ships regained control. Engines flared cautiously. Weapons remained offline. Terk held my gaze a moment longer. If you are truly heir to the First Dynasty, the galaxy will test you. Peeping voices, you released them. You could have ended the threat permanently. You just empowered a rival faction. I raised both hands. Everyone breathe. We avoided a war before lunch. That feels productive. The High Admiral turned to me. You wield power beyond our comprehension. I'm still comprehending it myself. Erin stepped forward, her long ears steady now. He demonstrated restraint. That is not weakness. The room quieted slightly. Inside my mind, the reliquary's presence felt attentive. Diplomatic vector selected. Long-term stability probability increased. See, I whispered. We're stabilizing. The ship processed that. You decline conquest pathways. Yes. Even though they are efficient. Efficiency isn't the only metric. A brief silence. Acknowledged. I looked out at the stars beyond the station's viewport. Somewhere in the dark, dormant fleets awaited a signal tied to my blood. Entire chapters of history were about to reopen. Erin joined me at the edge of the command platform. You surprised them, she said. I surprised myself. You could have destroyed the Dominion. I could also eat an entire ceremonial cake. That doesn't mean I should. Her lips curved slightly. Your analogies are strange. They're hereditary. She studied me for a long moment. The Empire will not see you as a figurehead any longer. I was hoping for a gradual transition. The galaxy rarely offers gradual. The reliquary system settled into a steady hum, not dormant, not aggressive, waiting. Awaiting next sovereign directive. I exhaled slowly. For now, I said aloud, we prepare. We research the archives. We learn what the First Dynasty truly was. And we try very hard not to start any ancient interstellar wars. Erin inclined her head. A modest objective. I specialize in modest. Beyond the station, space seemed different. Not because it had changed, but because something within it had awakened, and it was listening to me. The council chamber did not applaud. It recalculated. I stood at the center of a circular field of hovering sigils, each representing a member world of the conquered. They shimmered in diplomatic colors that shifted depending on collective mood. At the moment, the palette leaned toward anxious blue with streaks of argumentative orange. The reliquary remained linked to my neural patterns, a constant presence at the edge of thought. Advisory, political volatility elevated. I gathered that, I murmured. High Chancellor Verith's projection solidified before me. Sovereign heir, she said carefully, as if the title might detonate, the Dominion's withdrawal has destabilized multiple sectors. Rumors spread faster than fleets. I've always admired efficient rumors, I replied. Less fuel consumption. This is not a trivial development. I agree. It's a very large, very ancient development that chose me without prior consultation. A faint ripple of restrained irritation moved through the chamber. Commander Erin stood slightly behind me. Her long ears were adorned today with a new band of dark alloy, an emblem of her temporary appointment as liaison to what the council was calling, with visible discomfort, the restored line. She leaned closer. They fear loss of authority. I barely have control of my morning schedule, I whispered. Authority seems ambitious. The reliquary interjected, dormant fleet clusters responding to activation beacon. My pulse quickened. Responding how? Partial system awakenings detected. A map flared into existence before the council without my conscious request. Dozens of distant coordinates glowed faintly. Old shipyards, defense arrays, listening posts embedded in asteroid fields. The chamber went silent. Verith's voice tightened. You did not mention additional assets. I didn't know about them, I said. The ship and I are still in the early stages of our relationship. Relationship classification, command symbiosis. See, I said symbiosis, very healthy. A counselor from the Threxian worlds flickered forward. If those fleets activate fully, the conquered becomes secondary power. Only if we choose to become adversaries, I replied. The first dynasty didn't expand through annihilation. It established corridors, stabilized trade routes, deterred war. Archival confirmation available, the reliquary added. Project it, I said. Ancient records streamed into the chamber. Agreements signed between species long extinct. Joint patrol mandates, shared research initiatives. The first dynasty had functioned less like an empire and more like a gravitational anchor, holding volatile regions in equilibrium. Erin studied the data. Your ancestors did not conquer the Dominion, she said quietly. They contained a different threat. The reliquary pulsed. Historical anomaly referenced the Veil incursion. A chill ran through me. That sounds ominous. Threat classification, extragalactic. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. Extragalactic. No verified incursions beyond the rim. Those are myths. The reliquary transmitted a compressed archive directly into the council network. Star systems collapsing inward. Space folding unnaturally. Unknown constructs breaching known physics. My mouth felt dry. You fought something from outside our galaxy. Affirmative, and the first dynasty commanded unified defense. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. Verith spoke first. If this is true, why conceal it? Cultural memory degradation over centuries, the reliquary replied. Strategic compartmentalization led to historical erosion. In simpler terms, I said, everyone forgot. Erin's long ears angled forward. If the Veil incursion was repelled once, what prevents its return? Probability of reemergence increasing. That word settled into the chamber like a slow detonation. Increasing, Verith repeated. Deep space sensor arrays detect anomalous gravitational harmonics consistent with pre-incursion patterns. I laughed once, short and disbelieving. So this isn't about royal titles, it's about preparedness. Correct. The Threxian counselor leaned toward me. You command fleets capable of countering such a threat. Potentially, I said, assuming I pass whatever cosmic final exam is required. Erin glanced at me. You joke. If I stop joking, I might start panicking. The reliquary adjusted internal parameters. Psychological stability within acceptable range. Good, I muttered, glad to be within range. Verith's projection steadied. If an extragalactic threat looms, then the conquered must integrate with your command structure. I don't want dominance, I said. I want coordination. Clarify directive, the reliquary prompted. I drew a breath. We form a joint strategic council. The dormant fleets awaken under shared oversight. The reliquary remains primary defense node, but not unilateral authority. The chamber buzzed. You would dilute your own power. The Threxian asked. Yes, I said. Power hoarded fractures alliances, power shared builds them. Aaron's expression shifted subtly. Respect unmistakable now. The reliquary processed my proposal. Shared command increases diplomatic cohesion. Slight reduction in operational efficiency. I can live with slight, I said. I can't live with isolation. Verith inclined her head. Your proposal is unexpected. I've been unexpected all week. A warning tone pulsed through my neural link. Anomaly spike detected at rimward sector. The star map zoomed inward. One of the faint coordinates flared violently, then flickered unstable. Signal signature matches Veil incursion precursor. The chamber went still again. Aaron's voice dropped. Is this a test? Feels like one, I replied. The reliquary system surged subtly, awaiting command. Dormant fleets at 32% readiness. Recommend acceleration, I swallowed. Accelerate activation, non-aggressive posture, alert all conquered sectors. Directive acknowledged. Across the map, distant lights brightened. Ancient shipyards stirred. Long silent beacons reignited. Verith watched the cascade. The galaxy will know. Good, I said, let them. Aaron stepped closer to me. You realize what this means? That my schedule remains aggressively complicated. It means, she said softly, you are not merely heir to a dynasty, you are heir to a war. I looked at the flaring anomaly at the galaxy's rim, at the fleets awakening in response, at the council now bound by necessity rather than fear. I was hoping for ceremonial duties, I admitted. The reliquary's presence steadied around me. Sovereign readiness required, I exhaled. Then we prepare, I said, together. And somewhere far beyond the edges of mapped space, something answered with a tremor the galaxy had not felt in centuries. The anomaly did not explode. It unfolded. At the rimward sector, space thinned into something that was not emptiness but absence. Conquered probes went silent one by one, their signals clipped mid-transmission. The awakened fleets of the First Dynasty formed defensive lattices across 3 systems, awaiting orders that centuries ago would have come without hesitation. Now they came from me. Status, I said. Veil incursion signature confirmed, the reliquary answered. Early stage breach. Containment window limited. Aaron stood beside me on the command platform. Her long ears were steady, no flicker of doubt left in them. If this matches the archives, the breach will widen until conventional physics becomes optional. Optional physics sounds expensive, I muttered. She almost smiled. Focus. The Joint Strategic Council transmitted across secure channels. Conquered admirals, Threxian tacticians, Dominion observers who had returned cautiously after our earlier conversation. Marshal Terk's image appeared among them. We detect the same anomaly, he said. You were not exaggerating. I try not to exaggerate extra-dimensional threats, I replied. It complicates diplomacy. The reliquary projected combat models into my neural field. Not simple battles, multi-layered interactions across gravitational shear zones and energy inversions. Direct assault probability of success, 42%. That's not comforting, I said. Coordinated lattice compression combined with harmonic counterfrequency, 78%. I blinked. You have a harmonic counterfrequency. Archive of prior engagement retained. Aaron leaned closer. Your ancestors learned its rhythm. I suppose it's time I learned the family dance. The breach widened. From within it, structures emerged, angular constructs that did not obey symmetrical logic. They did not fire weapons. They altered constants. One conquered frigate vanished not in flame but in subtraction. The chamber across the fleets filled with strained silence. Deploy lattice formation, I ordered. All fleets aligned to Reliquary's harmonic grid. Dominion vessels integrate at Vector 9. Terk did not argue. Dominion acknowledges. Ancient ships bearing the sigil of the First Dynasty shifted into position, their hulls resonating with frequencies dormant for centuries. Conquered cruisers interlocked their shields into a continuous web. Dominion warships anchored the outer arcs. The reliquary's voice deepened within me. Sovereign authorization required for harmonic discharge. I hesitated only long enough to understand what that meant. Will it destroy the breach? It will destabilize the incursion vector. Complete eradication unlikely, forced retreat probable, and collateral damage within acceptable galactic parameters. That phrase is doing a lot of work, I said. Aaron's hand touched my arm. You wanted coordination, not conquest. This is the test. I looked at the fleets aligned not behind me, but with me. Conquered and Dominion vessels sharing data streams. Ancient dynasty ships no longer relics but guardians. I authorize harmonic discharge, I said. The reliquary did not fire. It sang. A frequency rippled outward, carried by every allied vessel. Space trembled in resonance. The veil constructs faltered, their impossible angles shuddering as the harmonic wave intersected whatever mathematics sustained them. The breach pulsed violently. Enemy constructs destabilizing, the reliquary reported. Maintain frequency, I ordered. Do not escalate. Conquered captains adjusted output. Dominion ships compensated for energy bleed. The lattice held. The breach contracted, not explosively, gradually, as if something on the other side reconsidered the cost. One final surge erupted from within, a distortion that threatened to tear the harmonic grid apart. Power reserves dropping, the reliquary warned. Without thinking, I reached deeper into the link between us. Not command, trust. Borrow from me, I said. Biological energy insufficient for macro-scale reinforcement. I'm not offering calories, I'm offering intent. Clarify, you were built to respond to my blood, then respond to my will. There was a pause, not mechanical but thoughtful. Integration attempt initiated. For a brief, disorienting instant, I felt the lattice as if it were an extension of my nervous system. Every allied ship a node, every captain a pulse of determination. Not subordinates, participants. Hold, I whispered. The fleets held. The harmonic wave intensified, not through greater force but through synchronization. The final distortion met the unified frequency and fractured. The breach collapsed inward, folding into a point of improbable light, then vanished. Silence followed, not the suffocating silence of frozen time, a living one. Across all channels, confirmation signals poured in. Incursion vector nullified, the reliquary said. Conquered casualties minimal, Dominion losses contained. I exhaled slowly, so that's done. Probability of future incursion, non-zero. Of course it is. Laughter, faint but genuine, echoed across shared channels. Relief more than humor. Marshal Terk inclined his head. Your restraint earlier allowed this alliance. I prefer fewer enemies during cosmic crises, I replied. The High Chancellor's image appeared. The conquered recognizes the restored line not as overlords but as partners. Good, I said. Overlords sound exhausting. The fleets began dispersing, not in retreat but in coordinated patrol. The dormant assets of the First Dynasty remained active, integrated now into a shared defense network rather than a solitary throne. Later on the reliquary's command platform, Aaron stood beside me. You changed it, she said. The breach. The meaning of the dynasty. I considered that. I didn't restore an empire, I restored a responsibility. Her long ears angled slightly back, then forward. Approval. You are no longer the reluctant heir. I'm still reluctant. But you are deliberate. The reliquary's presence felt different now, not testing, not measuring. Command symbiosis stabilized, it said. Sovereign maturation detected. Please don't phrase it like that, I muttered. Aaron laughed softly. It means you've grown. I looked out at the fleets moving in quiet coordination. At Dominion, and conquered ships sharing encrypted jokes about bureaucrats and harmonics. I used to think power was something inherited, I said. A title, a bloodline. And now, it's a choice every time. The reliquary processed that, choice integrated into core directive. Good, I said. Let's keep it that way. A transmission arrived from Earth. My family council, frantic and confused about why interstellar networks were using our crest again. I sighed. I suppose I should explain. Aaron's eyes glinted. About the extragalactic incursion or the harmonic lattice. Maybe I'll start with the jam. She shook her head, silver rings chiming softly. You are an unusual sovereign. Apparently that's effective. Beyond us, the galaxy resumed its motion. Trade lanes reopened. Patrol routes recalibrated. The memory of the breach would